Hello everyone and welcome back. Today we are going to go over the biomechanics of one of my favorite crunching variations. This will be a variation that will smash your six pack as well as the obliques to some degree, but mainly the six pack muscle. So let's jump right into it. All right, so for starters, we're going to notice just a couple of things, and I'll allow this to play in just 1 second. But the first and probably most important feature of this, and one that makes it unique from many other crunching variations, is this whole thing going on right here. So I got my butt propped up against the cable column, and I have a sweatshirt of mine between my butt and the cable column so that it's comfortable. In addition, I have the cable anchored basically at the highest setting, and in addition, I'm using a D handle, right? So what you'll notice over here is that I'm basically just grabbing one D handle, like a normal looking handle, with both of my hands, and it's kind of pressed up on top of my head. Now, as you go through the motion, it's very important to keep a few things in mind. Number one, you want to make sure that your butt stays in contact with this, and also that as you go through this motion, that you are moving through spine bending and spine arching, right? So where you will not see the motion as I'm doing this is you will not see the motion occurring between these two segments here, i.e. at the hip joint. If I were doing this such that it was going to be a hip joint, hip flexor exercise, what you would see is you would see a rigid line here, a rigid line here, and then you would just see me basically folding this thing forward and backward, kind of like you might in something like an RDL or a deadlift, right, where all the motion is essentially occurring at this joint here. What we want is the opposite in the case of an ab exercise. So what we want is to keep everything basically from here down completely still. And we want to be moving through this spine rounding. So I'll kind of just let this play through here. And what you'll notice is that there are little tidbits on the screen of text. You can pause to read those if you would like to. This is a part of my exercise library, so that's why there's some animations and some text on the screen. But again, to the point of just simply moving the spine here, all of the motion is essentially occurring through me thinking about crunching the front side of my body and closing the front side of my body, and then opening the front side of my body. So here I'm picturing, my rib cage is somewhere here and my pelvis is somewhere here. As I crunch down, I'm in essence thinking about closing the gap this way and this way, right? So this entire side of my body over here is actually opening as I do the crunch. And then this entire back side of my body is closing, and the front side then opens as I raise up to the top. So if I sort of go back to the beginning here, let this play. You see, as I crunch down, everything is being smushed down together, compressed on the front side. And then as I come up, my rib cage is basically lifting upward and forward almost toward the ceiling, right? So this, if I'm picturing my bottom ribs over here, these are in essence being directed upward as I'm sort of pulling my shoulder blades to my butt, if you can sort of imagine that. That's another way to think about it. And then the reverse is true on the way down. Now, another feature of this exercise that I think makes it a little bit unique from a traditional crunch is that you're actually able to use your legs to be able to improve the stability. So notice that I have my legs angled slightly forward. I'm not completely upright. So just to illustrate that real quick, my legs are at this forward angle relative to this pole, and they are not straight downward. And the reason that my legs are in this forward direction is because if the legs are angled forward, what you can do is you can actually push the floor away, in essence, just making it easier for you to push your butt backward, right? So my feet are actually a little bit, I know you can't see from this angle, my feet are a little bit forward. And what I'm doing is I'm imagining like there's a carpet underneath of my feet that I'm shoving forward so that I can, in essence, just drive myself backward into this pole. And again, as I go through this motion, I'm really making sure that this relationship here that I described earlier is not changing, and that all of the motion, as you can see, is just simply occurring through the spine. Now, one sort of last cue that you might appreciate is just the idea that pretty much everything from here upward, right? So from approximately here in this direction is completely still. So what you'll notice between the top and the bottom is this relationship of my arm does not change in terms of I'm not bending my elbow, I'm not moving my arm this way, and I'm not moving my arm this way. The cable itself is just staying anchored to the top of my head. I think it tends to actually be more comfortable than the traditional sort of thing where you grab a rope and anchor a rope around the backside of your neck. That just tends to me to feel a little bit more clunky, especially on my elbows and my shoulders. So again, from the top down, very simple steps in terms of setup and execution here. Anchor a cable basically at the top of the cable column and make sure that both of your hands hands stay glued to your head in addition to grabbing the handle and keeping the handle glued to your head. And then all of the motion, again, is occurring through the spine. We are rounding and bending, arching on the way up like that, and then crunching down almost like we're a turtle, attempting to sort of round the shell of our backs. In addition, the angle of the upper arm and the forearm and the elbow are not changing. That cable is staying glued to my head the entire time. And in essence, nothing from here upward and from here downward is moving. All of the motion is occurring basically between here and here. And all the motion is occurring through bending over forward and arching backward, again, with that cable in the same position. If you enjoyed this video and you want to learn more about biomechanics, but you don't know where to start because you have no experience, check the link in the description below. You'll access my beginner biomechanics course. It's basically a 30-day cheat sheet course on how to understand all this stuff from the ground up. You need no experience, no prior knowledge. It's made for the person who just wants to sort of dive into this stuff without boring textbooks and without listening to lectures that don't make sense. So if that's you, click the link in the description to see the course, and I'll see you all in the next video.